What's up, YouTube? So the summer is finally over, thank God. And of course I had to do my top 10 favorites, and let me tell you, this summer was tough. Unlike last summer, where I just couldn't decide what my favorite movies were because there were so many to choose from, this summer made it hard for me to even do this video. The other sucky thing is that because I was wasting time with so many of the shitty blockbusters that came out, I missed out on seeing the smaller indies like Swiss Army Man. So here I go, gonna do the best I can, but overall just not a good summer. Probably the worst of the 2010s so far, if I had to guess. So the good thing about this summer is that a majority of the good movies that were released were animated, which is why the first entry on here is an animated movie, Sausage Party. I know that a lot of people hated this movie when it was released, and I completely understand why, considering that they may have been tricked into thinking that it was a kids' movie, or they were expecting more than Seth Rogen's usual style of comedy. That being said, I still enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I really love Seth and his style of humor. I loved everything he did with this movie, despite the fact that there was a lot of cringe-worthy moments. The entire voice cast brought it, and while there were some moments that dragged a little, when the movie went for balls-to-the-wall humor, literally, it brought it, and it brought some of the hardest laughs of the summer, so that's why it makes my number 10 spot, Sausage Party. Coming in at number 9 is yet another animated movie, and it's one that I was not expecting to see either or put on this list, and that would be Finding Dory. I am expressly against Pixar sequels, since Pixar's all about originality, and their sequels have all been sucky and or mediocre. But I was fairly surprised by this movie. It was by no means a masterpiece, but it was really, really endearing, and it did what Minions was unable to do last summer, and that's make the side character the lead in his or her own movie and not have it completely suck. In other words, they pulled a reverse Joey, as I like to call it. Of course, however, you can't have Dory without the amazing pipes of Ellen DeGeneres, who returned to voice the forgettable Blue Tang, and I mean memory-wise. Albert Brooks also returned to do the voice of Marlin, and while I was scared since the first half of this movie made me think that it was going to be a Finding Nemo retread, once Dory got out on her own, it only went uphill. The new voice cast members I really like, particularly Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Ty Burrell from Modern Family, but the standout, of course, was Ed O'Neill as Hank the Grumpy Octopus, or Septipus, if you will. A Pixar sequel that surprised me by not being a total shitfest, some really endearing moments, and a once again interstellar voice cast are what puts this at my number 9, Finding Dory. Coming in at number 8 is a movie that I didn't get to see until months after it came out, but I'm glad I did, and that would be Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. I love The Lonely Island thanks to the fact that they revolutionized Saturday Night Live with their digital shorts, not to mention the fact that their music is just pretty spectacular overall, in addition to being hilarious. Andy Samberg, Akiva Schaffer, and Jorma Taccone are back to wreak havoc in this mockumentary that spoofs the shit out of celebrity pop culture, with Samberg in the lead as former boy band member and massive celebrity Connor For Real. Every single time this movie made a joke, it was comedy gold. I absolutely love the way they poke fun at celebrities and how they're viewed by the public, and just Andy Samberg overall was pitch perfect in the role. I got some really serious laughs from this movie. I'm really glad I got to see it before the summer was over, and that's why it makes my number 8, and that is Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. Coming in at number 7 is a movie that was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be, and that's Central Intelligence. Kevin Hart and The Rock team up in this buddy comedy that proved that you don't always need the strongest script if you have amazing chemistry, which this movie did in spades. Kevin Hart brought it back from his stinker earlier this year, that shitbox ride-along too, but the clear standout is the force of nature that is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Every single time the man was on screen, he stole the entire show just through his energy alone. I love the way him and Kevin Hart meshed. The movie was hilarious, albeit a predictable plot, and overall just a really nice comedic surprise for a summer that mostly just sucked the joy out of existence. The only bad part about the movie was Amy Ryan, who just completely looked like she didn't want to be there. So that's why it makes my number 7, Central Intelligence. Coming in at number 6 is a movie that I just absolutely loved. A movie that by the definition of this summer should have been terrible, and that would be Star Trek Beyond. Following up J.J. Abrams' subpar sequel Star Trek Into Darkness, Fast and Furious director Justin Lin, of all people, managed to bring all the members of the new and rebooted cast for a movie that reminded me the most of an episode from the original series. It was absolutely great seeing all the characters back. The actors all killed it again, and I really enjoyed Idris Elba as Krall, the main villain, in his 4th major film role of the year. Elba is crushing it this year. The separation and the reunification of the characters was such a compelling story arc, and the movie was so much fun, and of course, that absolutely ridiculous, ludicrous, completely out of place Beastie Boys scene, which I both loved and hated all at the same time, is why this movie makes my number 6 spot, Star Trek Beyond. Coming in at number 5 is a fairly recent entry, as well as the final animated entry on this list, and that is Kubo and the Two Strings. I loved this movie for so many different reasons, number 1 being that the animation was gorgeous. Like animation, while not nearly as big as Disney or Pixar, has been making their mark over the past couple of years with hits like Coraline, Paranorman, and the Box Trolls. And they did it once again with this one. The thing about this movie is that it's so damn subtle, but it never stops being endearing. The voice cast, which includes Charlize Theron, Art Parkinson, and Matthew McConaughey in the leads, is fantastic. It's easily the most gorgeous movie of the entire year, and it feels so fresh and original, which is really nice in a year that is filled with so many shitty sequels and remakes. And so that's why Kubo and the Two Strings makes my number 5 spot. Coming in at number 4 is the most recent entry on this list, and that is Don't Breathe. Holy shit, this movie was fantastic. I never see horror movies in the theater or in general, but I had to make an exception here, and I'm glad I did because, man, this is a movie that could have easily been a dumb action movie and sort of worked, but they made it into a horror movie, and I'm so glad that they did. It took literally the simplest premise you could think of, a couple kids breaking into an old blind man's house, and then he takes them all out, and it turns into a completely horrifying, messed up movie that works on every single level. It didn't rely on any of the classical horror tropes, and it's still absolutely terrifying, which is why it makes my number 4 spot Don't Breathe. Coming in at number 3 is a movie that nobody saw when it came out, and it sucks because this movie was fantastic, and that's The Nice Guys. Shane Black's third directorial effort that teams up Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe in 70s LA is so good, it didn't deserve to be as underseen as it was. Everything about this movie was perfection, from Gosling and Crowe's chemistry, to the extremely compelling narrative, because who doesn't love a good mystery, to the fact that the standout in the movie was actually newcomer Angourie Rice as Gosling's daughter. I usually hate kids in movies of any kind, but this year really turned it around for me, first with Nice Guys and then later on with Stranger Things. Those kids are amazing. I'm really mad that no one saw this. It's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang all over again, but this movie is fantastic. I love it, and that's why it makes my number 3 spot The Nice Guys. Coming in at number 2 is the last of the August movies that blew me out of the water. This August was really a lifesaver, and that's War Dogs. Todd Phillips' take on a Martin Scorsese movie that paired together Miles Teller and Jonah Hill was easily one of the best things about this summer. Mostly because it wasn't a comedy like I thought it was going to be. Jonah knocked it out of the park once again. He deserves an Oscar for this, and Miles Teller manages to recover from that stinker Fan Forsic that almost killed his career. Everything about this movie works in the best way possible, and that's why it makes my number 2 spot War Dogs. Guys, we've made it. End of the summer, top of my top 10 list. And what else, of course, could get this spot? The one that started it all. The one that actually made me kind of have some hope for the summer of 2016. And it's, of course, Captain America Civil War. My God, this movie was awesome! Anthony and Joe Russo, the directors who changed the course of the MCU with The Winter Soldier, managed to hit another slam dunk by not only focusing on Captain America's story this time, but also on Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Ant-Man, and all the other MCU heavy hitters that we've come to know and love at this point, of course, minus Thor and the Hulk. Not only that, but they also managed to bring in Black Panther and Spider-Man, 2 heroes with no origin in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at all, and managed to make them relevant in a movie that already has to accommodate space for 10 other superheroes, making them feel right at home and arguably the standouts. It's an amazing Captain America sequel. It's an amazing Avengers movie. The action is probably the best, most well-shot action I've ever seen. Of course, the airport fight sequence alone is going down as my favorite superhero throwdown of all time. And the fact that they managed to do a better Spider-Man origin in 5 minutes than Sony could do with 5 movies. And of course, that's why Captain America Civil War makes the top of my list my number 1 spot. Well, that's it. Those are my top 10 favorites. It was hard, but I did it. Thank God this summer is over. I am friggin' done. So what did you guys think? Did you guys think that I should have seen more movies? You're right. I should have seen more indie movies. I should have not wasted all my money at those shitty blockbusters. I should have gone to see Swiss Army Man. I should have gone to see Infiltrator. I'm really glad the summer's over. It's easily my worst summer yet since I started watching movies seriously. So I'm done with this summer. Bring on Oscar season. Follow me on Twitter. The usual. Peace out, guys.